Well, welcome everybody, and we are here at the V Village.
Yes.
With Dennis Melvin, and Dennis is one of the inductees for 2012 in the CARB Hall of Fame. Dennis, must be a good feeling, buddy, to know your peers.
Yeah,
respect your racing career, and want you in the hall.
Quite a surprise to me. It was completely unexpected, and I mean, it's just an overwhelming experience. I mean, I never dreamed of it happening, and now it is. And I said, boy, it's just overwhelming to me.
Yeah, it has to be. But like I say, your peers respect, I guess, what you've done in racing over the years.
I assume that. I accused a bunch of them of stuffing a ballot box, but they said that didn't happen.
Wasn't that way at all?
Yeah,
huh? Okay, at age 12 or 13, you start going to the races with your dad and different tracks in the area. Is this kind of when this burning desire, and I know you still have it, kind of started to grow within you?
When I was a little kid, younger than that, I said, shoot, we'd race anything that was around the neighborhood, wagons, bicycles, or anything, and I got to go into the races, and I said, boy, it just stuck in me, and I said, it's just something I ain't got rid of yet,
Okay, at 16 years old, you bring home a 1954 Ford.
Yeah.
And you tell your dad, I'm going to start racing. Yeah. And what was his reaction to that?
Well, he just about threw me out of the house. I said, it took a couple days to get over that. And I said, then he turned around and he says, well, if you're going to do this, I need to look this thing over a little bit. And I said, he made sure that, everything was put together pretty good. And because he was a fabricator by trade. And, we proceeded at that. And, we took it to the races once, and I'll never forget, I started on the front row of the heat race, and I thought, man, this is going to be easy. And, man, by the time we got to green and I got to the checkered flag, I was running last. And that was the end of the 54 Ford. I said, we got rid of it quick.
Yeah. This was at Lakeside Speedway.
Yeah, Lakeside Speedway.
And that had to be kind of daunting anyway to start on a half-mile track, because really Lakeside was pretty new at that time, and was really, and I hate to use this term because it's going to sound out of context, so to speak, but a super speedway for around here, because it was the only half-mile we had, other than Sedalia, I guess.
Yeah, it was, it was kind of overwhelming, but I said, that's where we went.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we all know, because we went through those teenage years, you approach your father with an idea, and of course you're wrong.
I don't know, he was awful supportive, but he wanted to make sure that, things was safe, the main thing, and that, and we enjoyed a lot of good times together, and my mother also, because I said, there was times we'd say, we'd get ready to go race with Mom, you got to fill the water cans up with the stuff in the truck, and we'd all be doing it together, and didn't have any trailer, had a tow bar, and went and hope we didn't tear it up so we could get it home.
I think, as I spoke to somebody else the other day, this was right in that time too when the overhead valve engines were coming into racing, and it completely changed the face of racing. So like you say, that 54 Ford with that old flathead was just not real competitive.
No, it was a dinosaur when I got it.
You do come back though a season later with, or at the end of that season, with a 55 Ford with an overhead valve engine. So how did that compete with the Chevys back then?
Well, back then the Fords were really competitive with the Chevrolets. I mean, there was a lot of guys that was winning races with the Fords, because they had you could run the 312 motor in the Fords, and the Chevys, as big as you get, was a 283. And they was competitive. I mean, it was a fairly even deal. Yeah,
I don't know if I said the year on this or not, but this was
that'd been 66, 67.
66, 67.
Yeah.
But boy, when you do get started in it, I mean, you get into it with a bang. You are racing Lakeside and Riverside, Topeka Fairgrounds, and I mean, you just go wholehearted into it. I'm building your own cars.
We was building our own cars, and I was single, had no obligations, and boy, we raced every time we could race. I mean, I had a group of guys I run around with, and we would go everywhere and race, and just had a great time.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out one of your quotes. I'm going to quote you from when we talked the other night. You said, we used to just dig something out of the junkyard and make a race car out of it. No kits, nothing special.
That's exactly true. I mean, you'd get friendly with somebody that had a salvage business, and you'd go down there and hornswoggle them out of something, and next thing you know, you'd build a race car out of it. I was always lucky to have people there. I mean, I'd get a pretty decent car and a supply of parts for the year.
Yeah.
You know, and that was great then. I mean, you didn't need any side dollar parts, but you know, that was part of the fun of it. I mean, spending the winter building a car and you know, getting the rewards of it. You know, if you made it go fairly decent, and we was, you know, had a lot of luck at that.
You must have had some advantage with your dad being a fabricator, because I mean, let's face it, you can put some pieces together, but to put them together right is a different story. To have that strength, the durability. So you had to have a little advantage with your dad.
Yeah, I mean, I really think so, because I mean, we always had really nice cars for the period, and I mean, I still do today. But I said we always prided ourselves with putting something together nice. There was nothing, you know, nothing cobbled up on them. We done it right, or we didn't do it. You know?
And of course that had to give you some other satisfaction as far as safety too.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Exactly. Another one of your quotes, Dennis. I love what you say. And I think this is so typical of racing, probably during 50s and 60s. And this is what you told me. You says, I went to a fight and a race broke out. Pretty tough times in the pit area. Yes, it was. I said, I went home a few times with some knots on my head, you know, but I was just a little skinny 130-pound guy, so you had to either run faster or no, it was rough and tumble. I said, you know, if you was wanting to stay in there and you know, succeed with it, boy, you had to get in there and mix it up with them. I mean, them guys took no prisoners, you know. Okay. Since we're kind of talking about that, besides in the pit area, boy, the competition on the track was pretty tough too. Who were some of the guys that you were running against during this time? Back in that day when I first started, I mean, the guys were really up there. You had you know, Jim Hager, you had Thurman Lovejoy. You know, you had Ernie Shirley, of course Terry Bibbins was in there, and you know, I started out racing with the Mike Dibbin and Bud Dibbin. I mean, they was winning a lot of races, and you know, there's Ed and Sam Perry was in there winning a lot of races, and you know, there was just a whole bunch of good guys, and they was all tough. I mean, Bill Crane, I'll never forget him. He helped me quite a bit, and you know, there's people you learn from, and they give you some suggestions, and hopefully you can, you know, learn from them. All names of families and racers that are synonymous with Kansas City racing over the years that you just mentioned, just a bunch of them in there, and man, having to compete with that bunch had to be. Well, I just feel real privileged that I got to start at that age and got to compete with them guys. Not that I was successful with them, but I got to compete with them, and you know, I learned the aspect of it that, you know, you're going to have to earn everything you get. There's nothing given to you. Nobody's giving any ground here. No. Okay, first year at I-70 opens up, and they invite some of the dirt track racers to come out there and race. They didn't have much of a car for a car count, and boy, and this is on asphalt. This on asphalt. This on asphalt, not dirt. We took our old dirt cars and washed them off the best we could and went down there. Didn't want to get no dirt on the track. Yeah, didn't want to get no dirt on their track. You know? And I'll never forget the first time I went on that place. I turned around and I set fast time, won my heat race, won the trophy dash, and won the feature going away. Yeah. And I thought right then, this is my niche. No more dirt for me. One of the things that I remember about that, because I'm not sure it was that race, but I remember that racing that was going on there at that time, was, boy, the tires were squealing. Oh, yeah. I mean, most of those dirt guys sideways in the corners, just like they were racing dirt. I think one of the advantages this had, I went to Wild Woody's and bought 4 new Mickey Thompsons. I had 4 brand new sticker tires on there. You know. It had to be fun though, and a little bit different. Yeah. To be able to go out and do that. Yeah, it was. I mean, there wasn't none of us knew that. You know, when you got that little bit of noise in the tire and a little slide, and once it got past that, you was in real trouble. Okay, 72, the next year, you build a late model just strictly for the asphalt, and you take it out to I-70 and proceed to destroy it the first night. Yeah, what happened? Lost a dag, and none of us knew any better. We still had the stock steering coupler and that thing, and then, you know, built the car, and it had asphalt tires on it, which had way more adhesion than the other tires, and boy, made 2 or 3 laps around there, and that thing was really fast, and went out on time trial, and I never felt so bad in my life. The only car on the racetrack, and I destroyed it. But went in the corner and turned the wheels left, and the car went right. those walls out there were pretty unforgiving.
I went plumb out of the place, knocked down a bunch of their wall, and they didn't like that real well either.
I guess if you could say there was a good thing about destroying a car, did you destroy the motor too? I can't remember.
Yeah, I ruined the motor. Had a brand spanking new motor in it, and it busted a block and busted a crank off in it. I'd spent every dime I'd had building that thing, and I said, I think about all I had left was some body pieces and the seat.
I guess if you could say there was a good thing about that accident, it was that it drove you back to dirt.
Yeah.
So you come back after that with a late model at Lakeside, and once again, I mean, you are in the thick of it.
Yeah.
You're running with guys like Bivens, Claxton, Dibben, Chapman, Hager, Lovejoy.
Yeah.
I mean, Dennis, you're putting yourself in the middle there, buddy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was. I mean, it was a lot of fun. That was tough. I mean, it took a long time to, work yourself up the ladder in that deal, and I never got to the top of it, but I was there fighting a bunch.
I remember what I call the grand days of Lakeside. I guess the old Lakeside, and man, it was just super competitive, and there again, names that are just synonymous with Kansas City racing. Some guys that were just tough, no matter where they raced. 81, 85, you decided to get into the sportsman class, or it is kind of the choice class of the time, running at Lakeside I-70 when it was dirt. You were a member of a 3-car team, as I recall, Dennis Gann, John Green, and yourself. Yeah,
it's Pat Black. He owned the cars, and I supplied the motors and bunch of the work on them things, and we all had quite a bit of success with that. And I said that was really an enjoyable time, and I really loved it because we was at the top. I mean, it was tough. That class was super tough class because there were some good guys racing in it. But I said we won real consistently.
Yeah, there again 2 nights a week. It has to be pretty tough. I mean. Plus, well, actually, both of these would have been half-mile tracks, so not as much changing as if you'd been running a quarter and a half.
No, I mean, about the only thing we changed was, ended up changing a spring or two and a gear between their 2 racetracks. But, the John Green and Dennis, they was running Riverside, and I'd go to run I-70, and it wasn't quite the work for me that it was to them to do. But we kind of worked on the cars together, and like I say, I took care of a bunch of the mechanical aspects of that thing, and I said, we didn't have many problems, thank God, or we all wouldn't have been there, I'll tell you.
Talking about that pit issue again, about some of the rough stuff that went on in that time, Big John would have been a good one to have around, I would have thought.
Big John could take care of anything that happened, and it's been proven. Good guy to have in your corner.
Okay, in 1989, you buy a modified from Billy Deckman, and you start racing in the modified class. By this time, you've won 1 feature at Lakeside and I-70 when they were both asphalt and dirt. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be something to be pretty proud of, because I mean, that is totally opposite racing of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, that was, we won a couple features on asphalt down there, and I think I won 15 or 16 of them on dirt when it was dirt down there and was racing, and I'm pretty happy with that, because it's just something you think back on. And I was looking the other day, and I said, man, there's the first feature I ever won was on asphalt. And I said, and that was really unexpected. Yeah. And like I say, we got the modified there, and we had some good finishes with it, and we finally ended up winning a feature with it. And again, we was surrounded by some pretty tough competition. The car count in those days wasn't real high, but every one of them was tough.
Yeah. 2001, you go back to a race car with fenders over all 4 wheels. You decide to get into the Grand National class at Lakeside. Yeah. Why the switch?
We were just kind of looking for something different to do. I mean, it had changed to dirt, and I'd really wanted to go modified racing. At that point in time, I didn't have the resources to do that, and we had a bunch of stuff laying around, and like I say, I turned around and cleaned the garage out and got some chalk, and I laid the car out on the garage floor, and I told my boy we're going to build a car, and he said, Dad, are you nuts? I said, well, yeah, everybody knows that, but here we go. And I said, we just stood around and built our own car there in the garage, and I was very gratifying that it turned out to be a really good car.
Yeah. that's got to be, like you say, gratifying to come up with something yourself and to have it work well. It really does, because so many times nowadays you can go out and buy. Well, what I like to say is, because it's the same thing as, I hate to refer to it all the time, but RC racing, you can go out and buy speed nowadays. Then you had to make it.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly.
So like I say, it had to give you a good feeling.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it's, you know, we had some good cars, and, you know, had a lot of good help, you know, on it, and, you know, we really enjoyed it.
2007, you have a modified that actually Cliff Lawrence was going to drive, but Cliff's illness was really starting to work on Cliff, and he wasn't health-wise able to get behind the wheel, so you decided to drop in and drive it.
Yeah, we turned around and, you know, we bought that car, and Cliff had been on me for 2 or 3 years, and he says, let's get it modified and build a modified. And you know, we kicked it around, and finally I said, well, you know, let's get one. He said, well, let's just get one, we'll run it once in a while, you know, not weekly, just once in a while, and we'll take turns driving it or whatever. And I thought, you know, Cliff, I got a race car. I said, heck, I don't need another one, you know. And so anyway, him, my son, and me got together, and we started building this car. And it took us a little over a year to get it done, and, you know, we got to working on it. I mean, we pretty well designated that was going to be Cliff Lawrence's car. I said, he had helped us so much over the years, and I just, you know, wanted to try and pay him back a little bit. And, I mean, it was a stellar piece. Well, we got it done. It's set upstairs in the shop for a year and a half, covered up, because Cliff wasn't able to race it. And, you know, he come down here, and he turned around, and he says, well, he said, I can't race it. He said, my first choice is, he said, I'd really like for you to race it. And I said, well, I guess that's what we'll do, you know. And, you know, it was a good car. I said, you know, we probably in over our head fairly big, but I said, you know, I'll never forget the first night I run that car. I started 10th in the heat race, and I thought, dude, and the next thing I know, I'm running second. You know, darn near won it. You know.
Yeah. If we could for just a minute, I know this is your moment in the sun, so to speak, but you and Cliff had kind of a pretty close relationship.
Oh yeah, he was like a brother I never had. I mean, we lived a few blocks apart, and I got to know Cliff when he was about 15 years old, and when I first got to know him, I'd started racing and he wasn't, and he worked at a gas station up the street from where I was, and, you know, back then you didn't have racing tires. You had big old snow tires that had sidewalls on them like boards, and I took tires up there to get them changed, and here's this little skinny kid out there working on this manual tire changer out in the sun, and I thought, oh my God. I said, you know, he worked diligently in them things, and I come back and got him, and the guy told me, yeah, we got him done, you know, and Cliff was looking at me like, don't you ever bring another set up here, you know. And, you know, I kind of got to know him, and then I found out he lived a few blocks from me, and a few years later he started racing, and you know, we kind of started doing things, you know, back and forth. I mean, I'd help him with the motors, and he'd help me with cars, and you know, it just went there, and hell, there was years that you know, I didn't have a car, and he had a car and no motor, and we put things together, and I'll never forget one year, you know, he wasn't working, and he didn't have a motor, and I gave him a motor and won a championship at Riverside. And you know, that was very gratifying there. I mean, we just pieced stuff together and went out there and done real good at it, you know. But that man was just such a talent, and I learned so much from him, and all the help that he done everybody else. But he really helped me. And I really miss the man. Yeah,
don't we all?
Yeah.
In 2010, you might say you had a little date with fate on the back stretch at Lakeside Speedway.
Sure
what happened in that deal, Dennis?
Yeah, you know, that deal there was another competitor had lost a radiator hose, and I said, you know, I'd been coming up through the pack pretty good, and boy, I got in the water, and I got the wheels turned to the left, and the car's going right. and I got her full song. There's no slowing her down.
Yeah.
And I still don't know. I think at the last minute it finally bit just enough to get it sideways, but when I hooked that tire going sideways, and then we went up and out of the park, it knocked me out, so I don't remember much from there. But that was the worst wreck I ever had.
Yeah, broken leg.
Yeah, broke the leg in 4 places, and I know the next day I'd look like somebody painted me with black shoe polish because there wasn't a spot on me that wasn't bruised. You know?
If I remember right, I think you told me one of the frame rails came up.
Yeah, the right frame rail, it shoved it up and over the drive shaft and pushed it through the foot box, and that's what broke my leg. It broke the brake pedal and the clutch pedal off in the car with my legs going across there.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, good built car. It was a Bill's built car, and I said I'm really thankful for his workmanship in that thing, or I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
I think you also said that it was the first time that you'd built or bought a seat.
Yes, I bought a full containment seat in a Hans.
And a Hans,
and I said, you know, I think that saved my life.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, there you go, guys. You heard it.
Yeah.
In the early 70s, you actually start building race motors then, but then you opened up, or in partnership with somebody on a machine shop, building motors and doing stuff.
Yeah, at the time in there, I was actually, I was working for a shop, and he turned around and ended up closing up, and I'd owned part of the equipment, so I had to go borrow the money. I bought all the equipment, I moved it into another building, and I got a job that I thought I'd work at about 6 months till I could get on my feet, and I said, boy, I'm working 18 hours a day trying to keep going forward. And place I was working for, you know, I told them, well, I'm probably going to give you about a month's notice, and I'm going to quit because I'm going on my own. Well, they immediately upped the ante. Well, I couldn't give up the money, and I started my little shop, and I just kept adding equipment to it and equipment to it, and I said I'd done that for 18 years. I said I'd work from 7 to 4:30 at one place, and I'd work from 5:30 to 1 o'clock in the morning at the other. And I said, you know,
wow. Oh my.
And I said in 2001, me and a partner bought V Village, and I incorporated my shop into their shop, and you know, that's given me some time to go home at 6 o'clock at night.
Right. Okay. Your motors have won many championships and features. You were giving me some numbers the other day, and I don't remember. If you want to say any of those, well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we've always had real good success with our motors, and people that have used them have. I don't remember the exact year, but I know there was one year there we done about 18 motors, and there was like 78 wins out of our shop, and man, I was really proud of that. And that's all I done for that point in time. I mean, I wasn't doing nothing but race work, and we just had a shop full of it and done it all the time. And I said, you know, we still have quite a bit going on here, and we've had some championships in the last couple of years out of here.
Yeah. Who? Can you give us one?
Brian Johnson won down there at Warrensburg.
Okay.
And we had a sprint car deal down at Butler, a guy won.
Okay.
And we had another sprint car deal at Sedalia there a few years ago, a guy won.
Okay.
And they all come out of here. And like I say, I got you know, a fair number of sprint car customers and Lakeside customers and Warrensburg and I-35 and that, but I said, you know, we don't do the motors that we used to, and I said, but we do enough to satisfy us.
All right. What's more fun right now, Dennis? And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What's more fun, building a championship race car motor or being out there driving yourself?
Racing.
I knew that. I knew that. I think I said earlier, it amazes me how that desire is still within you to be out there and compete.
Yeah, I'll be 63 here in a few weeks, and I said I haven't slowed down none of my desire to race.
Yeah.
I said, you know, and when I was sitting there in 2010 with that broken leg, I sat home for about a month, and I said, you know, the first week I said I couldn't even stand to hear the word racing, and I said the second week I thought, you know, I might go to the races here in a few weeks. I get up and around, and I said, you know, the third week I was already laying out the next car. And I think my wife, she was thinking I should have seen a psychiatrist instead of an MD.
Oh my! Was racing more fun back in these good old days than it is now? I mean, I think we kind of discussed this a little bit, but each one, I think, had their advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, you know, wholeheartedly. I mean, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. I said, you know, I enjoy it more at this stage because my kids are involved with it. My son, he sets the car up, and he's took over basically building the cars the last few years. My son-in-law, John Baker, he helps us with it. That's why the cars look so good. And my son's girlfriend, she does all the graphics and stuff on the cars. And I said, boy, we always have really nice looking cars. And I'm enjoying it at this stage, I think, more than I did then. But back then, I had so many good friends that we all raced together and helped each other out and everything. And that was real good times, too. Because, heck, there was nights after the races. One night we'd go to my house to eat, and the next night we'd go to somebody else's. We'd get somebody's wife to cook breakfast for 25 of us.
Oh my! Well, Dennis, all I can say is congratulations on being inducted into the Hall. Like we were talked earlier, I know it's a great honor, and
I really appreciate it. And like I say, it was quite a shock to me, and I'm going to cherish it.
Yeah. Once again, folks, one of the 2012 class of inductees into the CARB Hall of Fame, Dennis Melvin. Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
She will leave her trail of turning heads, smoking bridges and ice cold beds, avoiding any blame at any cost. She is spinning wheels and throwing stones, burying hearts and digging up them bones, making up for time love that was lost. She's making